powered by the Association of Kenya Insurers.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the semis here at the debate circle for the nationals, and the motion of dissection reads: mental health coverage should be mandatory in all insurance policies.
Let's begin with mental health. According to the World Health Organization, mental health is the well-being of the mind that enables people to cope with stress, losses, and even realize their abilities as a whole. Mandatory. The Cambridge Dictionary defines mandatory as compulsory or as demanded by law. Insurance policies are, as Wikipedia defines, a legal contract between an insurance company and the entity being insured, which determines the claims the insurer is legally required to pay the insured entity. The government, in realization of mental health to the economy, recently amended a mental health bill number 28 of 2020 that placed an obligation on the Ministry of Health to include mental health care on all NHIF insurance services and compel all other insurance companies to do so. According to an article on People Daily, 23rd January of 2023, there is a growing concern on the increase of number of suicides that is related to mental health. Like any other illness, mental health also leads to harmful effects if left untreated. For example, diabetes, stroke, and heart disease. This brings me to the crisis of the insurance sector in Kenya, as most insurance policies do not cover pre-existing conditions until after 1 year. Mental health is a human right, and people with mental illnesses should not be subjected to unnecessary barriers to care. An example is stigma. Stigma makes mental health into a vicious cycle, because when mentally afflicted people are stigmatized, they tend to segregate themselves. This is because we view mental health as alien. We view mental health as something that is different, therefore we segregate ourselves. They lean more into depression, they lean more into anxiety, they can even get into drug and substance abuse. In the end, they commit suicide, and we still blame them for not being able to recover from something that we had a part in causing.
Before opposing this motion, I feel like this motion hasn't been done justice by the first proposer in terms of characterization. So kindly allow me to do a little bit of redefinition. Mental health refers to emotional, psychological, and social well-being of an individual, which affects how people think, act, or feel. Coverage means the extent to which mental health policies are given. And in the context of this motion, we are talking about all of the mental health policies. When we talk about mandatory, we are meaning obligatory. And when we talk about insurance, this is a contractual agreement between a policy holder and an insurance provider, where in exchange for a premium, you are given services that cover you and insure you against risks. So what is this motion characterized as? It is characterized as a motion of whether all types of insurance policies, whether health, whether disability, whether life, whether car, whether house, all of them must have a mandatory health coverage. What are we aiming to achieve in this motion? We are talking about SDG number 3, good health and well-being, SDG number 1, no poverty, 5, gender equality, 10, reduced inequality, and 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. What is the problem in the status quo that is leading us towards having this motion? It is that mental health issues have become prevalent in our society. According to the World Health Organization, more than 264 million people suffer from depression. Around 450 million people globally suffer from other related mental health issues, examples being PTSD, OCD, and others. In Kenya, 25% of people suffer from mental health issues at some point in their lives. So up to that point, that is the motion characterized. So what are we opposing, ladies and gentlemen? It is that the way to deal with this issue in the status quo is not making this mental health coverage mandatory. Let me give you why. The first thing is about cost and affordability concerns. Now, Let me read you a statistic. According to the Kaiser family, the annual premium in the US for mental health for insurance annually is $7,470. That is per individual. Now, taking this into context, you're bringing another additional premium. So how do you expect these people to be able to pay for this mental health coverage? The second thing is about the limited impact on the root cause. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'll come to you, I'll give you a coverage, and where will you go? In our country, where are the psychiatric units? Where are the rehabilitation units? They are not there. According to a report by the Mental Health America, 60% of adults with a mental illness did not receive mental health services, do not receive mental health services globally. So we can give you this mandatory insurance, but ladies and gentlemen, without having these facilities, without addressing the root cause, there's nothing that we're achieving.
Mental health needs is more sunlight, more undivided attention, and more unashamed conversations. On the stage is Ephraim Kiari from the Machakos School, standing firm to propose the motion that states that mental health coverage should be mandatory in all insurance policies. To my worthy opponent, you brought up an issue of cost, that it will be expensive. I bring up a cost of suicide. How do you culminate that? Loss of a person's life. You don't know how much he has worked to reach to that point. Can you? Valentine Nyakiere, age 34, is a mental illness survivor. She attempted suicide many times. Her last attempt was in July 2018, where she was saved and finally spoke up. She left a cryptic note written, and I quote, "I am headed to a place where my rapists will no longer invade my nights. Humans will no longer torture my emotions, and there shall be no religion to judge me anymore. My shortcomings shall not be recited to me. Oh, how sweet it shall be. I want the exit to be enjoyable. I want to enjoy the pain of life one more time. I want to feel that for once I have brought freedom to myself and the pain will not torture me. I will be free." You brought up an issue of stigma and discrimination. Allow me to expound on it. This mental health coverage, upon being mandatory, can help reduce stigma and discrimination associated with mental illness. How is this possible? First, it signals mental health as a normal and valid part of healthcare and encourages more people to access the services they need without shame or guilt. Valentine was afraid to go for assistance. Why? She was afraid that people would judge her. The people would have crazy definitions about who she was, about who her life is made of. According to the Psychiatry Organization, more than a half of people with mental illness in the US, a total of 27 million people, do not receive mental health treatment. Why? Due to concerns about being treated differently or fears of losing their jobs or livelihoods. These are people, when they come out and say, "I have a mental illness, I need assistance," it's not up to you to judge them. And the government should be at the first hand by making it mandatory. What does this do? Whenever they're in an issue, they go to hospital, they get assistance. What does the insurance do? It comes and gives money for quick treatment. Second, it challenges the negative stereotypes and prejudices that people have about mental health condition. Simple question. I'm a doctor. You come to me and say, "And by the way, I feel a bit off lately. My mind is not in its right way. The wires have interconnected. Bolts are unscrewed." What will I tell you? This is not the right hospital. Why? We shame them instead of supporting them.
They talk about stigma. They talk about judgment. We stereotype those who have mental health issues. Do you know why that is? It's not because we haven't forced them to pay a premium that covers their mental health coverage against their will. No. The reason why they are judged is because they don't have the education in the first place. The mandatory coverage of mental health in all insurance policies is not the reason. And now allow me to dive down into my points. You see, there are challenges that will come about when these people advocate for a mandatory health coverage in all insurance policies. My first opposer talked about cost and affordability concerns, which will ultimately lead to poverty, going against SDG number 1, which is no poverty. And also, it talked about not tackling the problem from the root cause, which means in terms of good health and well-being, they are not accountable for it, going against SDG number 3. Now, I bring you more. What am I bringing you? It infringes on personal responsibility and the freedom of choice. A mandatory mental health coverage means for everything it is you're insuring within an insurance company, you are mandated by law, as the definition of mandatory, to pay an extra amount of premium advocated towards mental health coverage. We have infringed into your preferences and your ability to tailor insurance plans to your ultimate benefits, pursuing your unique needs. We instead need to do what? Give you targeted mental health insurance plans. This is where we have given you insurance plans at a variety, where you can choose a plan that suits you best, and we don't have to force mental health coverage plans down your throat. Now we have given you a plan that you can insure your car, and probably you can insure your car and add a bonus of what? Mental health coverage. We have given you freedom of choice. Now, for us to give you the freedom of choice, there's something else we need to do. We need to tackle the problem from the root cause. What is that? Transparency in our offerings of insurance policies and increasing consumer education.
Well, I'll start by answering the question that was given to me. So, you are asking that if we include the mental health coverage in insurance premiums, that there will be an increase in insurance policies, that there will be an increase in insurance premiums. According to a study by NHIF, it showed that there will only be a 5% increase. Take, for example, you are paying 50,000 as your insurance premium. Getting my math right, it will just skyrocket by 2,500 shillings, which is not as much as compared to the socio-economic costs that are caused by mental health disorders. And now, this drives me to my first point. Mental health. Let us take our body's health as a computer. Let us take the mental health as a software, and our physical health as the hardware. Both can suffer from viruses, bugs, and glitches. And we cannot neglect any. So, if we neglect the software, the hardware won't function effectively. And so will it when we neglect the hardware. And what am I trying to say? That mental health care is equally as important as physical health. And now, let us go to the socio-economic costs that is caused by mental health disorders. Some of the social economic costs that we have, I would just like to ask any one of you, if you know the cost of a psychiatric visit. A psychiatric visit costs about 3,000 shillings, which is not pocket change for each Tom, Dick, and Harry in Kenya. For treatment, it is up to 50,000. Do you mean that any Kenyan can give 50,000 out of their pockets to pay for these mental health services? What will they choose? They will choose to neglect these services, and thereafter they will fall into depression, and this will lead to self-harm.
The third speaker comes and tells us that a psychiatrist visit costs 3,000 shillings, while NHIF stated that the premium for mental health is 50,000 shillings. So, if we look at that, where does the cost incentive actually go to? As side opposition, we are not refusing to acknowledge the issue that mental health is actually a problem in our society. But the problem is solving it through mandating it in all insurance policies. You see, as side proposition, we have shown you that by making this mandatory, it will lead to 1, cost and affordability concerns, limited impact on mental health care accessibility, effect on personal responsibility and freedom of choice, potential adverse selection, and impact on insurance competition. You see, an example of a place where actually their case have not worked is the United States. You see, according to a study published in the journal Health Affairs in 2019, it revealed that MHPAEA's enactment, non-compliance with parity requirements persisted, leading to disparities in mental health coverage. The study also found that the share of insurance plans adhering to parity requirements increased from 25% in 2008 to only 37% in 2015 July. You see, we have given you what this mandatory, by mandating it, what it will lead to. And the solutions that we are tabling as side opposition is targeted mental health insurance plans as an alternative, investing in mental health infrastructure that is tackling the problem from the root cause, as we have explained that there is no way you will give me this money and when I go out there is no doctor for me to go to. That does not make sense.